if he'd been on a particular murder case or something, you didn't see him for 4 days, he'd come out absolutely steaming and just get stuck into everyone. Well, yeah, my mum and me, basically. Yeah. Be very, very careful of people who befriend you who are in monetary problems, you know. I've had that a few times and been burnt.
Have you had people ask you for money?
Anyway, it gets to 23rd of December and I'm just starting to make plans for Christmas Day and that. Where are we going? Do you want to go and eat? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, oh, yeah, I told you, I'll go to my cousin's wedding. I'm like, oh, right. And when are you coming back? Oh, I'm not coming back. What do you mean you're not coming back? She goes, oh.
Well, hello there. What's the story? You're probably sick of me saying what's the story now, but I'm going to keep saying it anyway. So today we're going to meet Steve, and Steve is from Scotland originally, but he spent a lot of his life growing up in England. He's going to tell his whole life story for us today. He was the son of a policeman. He said his father ruled with an iron fist, and it sounds like he didn't have a happy childhood. It sounds like his father was a heavy drinker and took it out on Steve, which he believes is the root cause of his diagnosis with PTSD, which is quite interesting. I've never met anyone that's been diagnosed with PTSD before. He's going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to move the conversation into Thailand because Steve is living on the tropical island of Koh Phangan. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that. I find that the name of that island probably the hardest to say because it has the NG. Anyway, he's living on Koh Phangan. Now, Koh Phangan, you probably know it already. If you don't, it's kind of known as the backpacker island. You know, they have the full moon party there. But in recent years, it's changing. There's a lot of development going on that island at the moment, and Steve's going to talk about it. He's got a business on the island, which he's going to talk about as well. He's going to talk about the challenges that you face running a business on a tropical island. He's also going to talk about a relationship he had with a Thai woman that ended abruptly. And then he's going to get into the what life is like on Koh Phangan with the expat community, and he's going to talk about the do's and don'ts of living with other expats. So we got a lot to get in through in this video, but remember, folks, the video is like 42 minutes long, but there are chapters at the bottom, so you can skip through specific parts of the video. But obviously, it helps me out if you watch the whole thing. Just saying. Right, let's get straight into it. Hope you enjoy it, folks. Cheers. So, Steve, thanks very much for coming on here. So, yeah, we're going to get into your whole story right now. So, you're currently in Koh Phangan, beautiful island. We're going to get into that. Let's go all the way back. You were born in Scotland. You grew up there till you were 12 and you moved to the UK. Can you tell us about that period of your life?
Yeah.
Sorry, you moved to England. I said the UK. You moved to England.
Yeah, I moved to the south of England. Yeah. So yeah, born and bred just outside Edinburgh. Me and my sister, we lived there till we were 12-year-old, and it was a sort of happy but unhappy time because it was a great place to grow up. You know, you're spitting distance from the beach. You've got lovely, beautiful parkland. And I got inducted into the game of golf when I was very young. It's very, very popular amongst the young kids. And yeah, being the son of a policeman, that was the difficult part for me. You know, growing up on a rough estate where the policeman got housed in those days. You know, every rough estate had a block, a 5 little terrace block with a couple of coppers living in there to keep the control over the little estates. You know, and when you're known as the policeman's son, it can work for and against you. So, you know, the baddest of the bad boys will really want to have you, but some of the good boys will want to be on your side, you know, because, oh, it's that's Stevie's son of the copper, you know, yeah, he's all right, you know. The others will be like, oh, have him, that's the son of the copper. So it was kind of a difficult time growing up, and it just muddled on through. And then my mum and dad split up. My mum met an Englishman, and that's another long story, but we ended up moving within about a 6-month period, 6-month notice period of my mum meeting my stepfather down to the southeast of England. And wow, what a culture shock. You know, you just couldn't imagine it for all the preparation and the people who spoke to me about it, saying, oh, it's got to be different and yeah, blah, blah, blah. It was more different than I realized it was going to be.
What were the big differences?
Oh, but the accent for sure. I mean, I had a real East of Edinburgh guttural accent, you know. No one could really get what I was saying without asking me to repeat myself and slow it down, which is why after 30 years living there, I've got a very English accent now, you know. And I didn't understand what they were saying as well. I mean, where we moved to, there was my first encounter of the local boys in the village was my mum had sent me to get a portion of chips on a Friday, as we did in Scotland. Fish on Friday, fish and chip shop run. So I've gone round to the local chippy, come out with several portions of chips for the family. And these three gypsy boys or travellers, pikeys, whatever you want to call them, they approached me. Oh, you's new in the village, mush. I'm like, what? Repeat, what was that, mate? And then he asked me to jump up and down. I'm like, I'm not jumping up and down. Who are you, mate? And what they were trying to do was ascertain if I had any change in my pockets. So they're going to rob me.
Mm.
So I'm like, hold on a minute. These guys want to rob my change. I've moved to the village about 2 weeks earlier. So that's when, yeah, that was an interesting end to that because I put the chips down, sat in amongst one of them, picked the chips back off, run up the road. 2 weeks later, I start school and two of the boys are in my class. I'm like, oh, you're joking. And they're like, oh, he's the mad jock. Stay away from him. Watch out. He'll hit you, that boy. So quite early, I got this stupid reputation of being the mad jock in the village, you know?
And did you eventually settle then and settle into life, or was it did you find it a bit
Yeah.
difficult?
No, it was difficult. I'm not going to lie. But I just wanted my mum to be happy, if I'm really honest. My mum was so unhappy when we were in Edinburgh, living under the reign of terror from my father. And she was so happy when we moved there. So that made me sort of happier, even though probably for 6 months I cried myself to sleep every night, you know, missing my pals, missing my family. I was really close with my grandparents back then, you know. They looked after me all the time. My dad was on jobs in the CID and my mum could, you know, whatever.
You said in the email to me that your dad ruled with an iron fist.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Depending on how much you'd have to bevy, you know, depending on that, always. Like the 2 or 3 pint mark after he's finished his work, he was always nice and mellow and merry, and you could smell the beer. And I've got memories of that being him all jovial. And then if he'd been on a particular murder case or something, you didn't see him for 4 days, he'd come out absolutely steaming and just get stuck into everyone. Well, yeah, my mum and me basically, yeah. And I used to hide in my bedroom and pull the covers over my head, pretend I was sleeping when he'd come home and that sort of state, you know. And yeah, and being this sort of, I don't know, I wasn't a naughty little boy, but I was just a little boy. I was doing things that other boys were doing. Oh, let's go in the hospital grounds that's disused and investigate, you know. And I got belted for, you should go in, son. It was, you know. And when I had my son and he got to the age that I was at when my dad used to hit me with a belt, I'm like, how could he have even done that, man? What was really going through his head? Because I can't imagine harming a hair on my son's head, mate, for sure, you know. Even lifted a hand to threaten them, I would, you wouldn't treat a dog like that, mate. So you grow up burying that stuff until it comes to haunt you later, you know.
My sister has a 5-year-old son, and I just couldn't imagine, you know, touching a hair in his head. Like, just couldn't imagine how could a man do that to a kid. I still don't understand it.
And I've made excuses for him over the years, and I quite openly talk about this because I've been through it with counsellors and stuff. You know, it's probably the root cause of my PTSD, which we might talk about later. But you've got to talk about this stuff, and you know, and doing it, even just sitting here with you, makes me feel a wee bit better about myself. You know, and it's not really about me. It's about stop making excuses for him. There's no excuse. That's the bottom line, Pete. No excuse. No matter how drunk you are, no matter how many murders you've been out solving, you know, no matter how bad the world's treating you, you never take it out on a kid ever. Bottom line for me. So that's what forces me to fight back a lot when I have to, which we might go on to, you know, later.
Yeah. So you were diagnosed with
Mm.
PTSD. Can you tell us how did
Yeah.
the diagnosis come, and what like can you describe? I don't think I've ever. I think you're the first person I've met that has told me that they've been diagnosed with PTSD. So I don't know much about it.
Okay. Okay. So the major symptoms initially were with me was mine and my son's mother weren't getting along too well. My son was about 2 years old. I think she, without realizing it, had a little bit of postnatal depression. I was trying to work 2 jobs, fix the house up, and do everything. And just a little thing started triggering me to be really angry, you know. stupid little things, and I see it in other people now, and I think, you know, that reminds me of me, you know. And it got to the point where I didn't want to express how I was feeling about these stupid little things, so I bottled it up. And then before you know it, you bottled it up too much, and your mind and your body can't handle it. And I went into quite a deep depression by not realizing and understanding what was going on, all these little triggers about things, you know. Um, so after I split up from my son's mother, I had to go and get some treatment and talk to someone about it. So I went through the NHS process, spoke to a very good doctor, Dr. Williams, up at the surgery near me. He put me in touch with after a couple of sessions with him. The first question that they ask, by the way, when you go, have you got any memories of any traumatic experiences? It's like, oh my God, where do you want me to start? You know what I mean? And when you reply to that, they're like, okay. And then they wind you all the way back to the beginning, and then you start to have this realization: shit, it's not depression. There's a root cause causing me to react to certain situations. So it's like a reactionary thing, the PTSD. Whenever I see like a really, or I'm involved in a really high, tense, stressful situation, you bet your bottom dollar I come out fighting. And that's all I can say. You know, I always stand my ground, I always back up what I think is right, but to an extent where other people would maybe just walk away and go, okay, the sky's red today, is it? It's not, it's blue. Right, the sky's red. You're right, mate. I will stand and argue the sky's blue all day to the point where it can end up getting silly. Um, so yeah, the PTSD was after about 2 years of them saying you've got depression and giving me these drugs for depression, which were just mind numbing. It does it turn you into a zombie within about a month of them being able to kick in. You've got no highs, no lows. You're just very middle ground the whole time, like a bloody robot beat. And I didn't really, really like that. I could feel the effect. People were saying to me, "Oh, you're not yourself. What's going on, mate?" You know. And again, you don't talk about it to your pals. You're like, "Oh yeah, just something the doctor gave me is not quite right." So another couple of visits, and it was a young lady online actually, of Indian origin. Can't quite remember her name, but she drilled down with me and said, "You're not depressed. You've not got bipolar. It's not this. It's PTSD. You're reacting to all these situations that are getting triggered by memories of traumas, or how you don't like confrontation because you remember it ending violently as a child and stuff like that. You know, it was very, very good to speak to this lady, and she recommended a particular drug that worked really well. It kept me balanced and stopped my overreaction, and yeah, it just helps you be yourself a little bit as well.
Let's move on to Thailand then, because you said in the email to me that life in Thailand has helped you a lot, with your PTSD. So let's go back first to the very beginning. How did you first find Thailand? When was the first year you visited?
Okay, so for years and years, since a little boy, I'd had this bug about traveling, right? My grandpa bought me a Times Concise Atlas. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a massive A3 atlas that folds out, double A3. And it's got all the countries of the world you never heard of, me as a 7, 8 year old. And he would point out where he'd been, and he was in the 4-2 Commando Royal Marines, my grandfather, and he spent a lot of time in Burma in the 50s and a little bit into Thailand. He's like, go to these places, you would love it, son. So it started there, and then it wasn't until I was 30, so 2022, when the right money situation came along. I got made redundant from a really good job, sold my little flat, and I thought, right, I'm doing it. I'm mature enough, I'm old enough, wise enough now at 30, 31, a good bit of life experience behind me, and persuaded my then girlfriend, the lovely Lucy, to come with me. And we'd done a year around the world. And my first stop had to be Bangkok. I'd read The Lonely Planet cover to cover about Thailand, and Bangkok I was just fascinated by. And then, yeah, the round the world trip is everything across land, all the way down to the south of Thailand and Malaysia. We nearly got stuck in Koh Phangan without going anywhere. It was like 4 nights in Bangkok, train, beautiful train ride, a couple of days in Hua Hin, landed in Koh Phangan, and I fell in love. We were booked in for 4 nights, 80 baht a night. It was 72 baht to the pound back then, Pete, can you believe? And we just fell in love. 4 nights turned into 4 weeks on the same beach. Little result. We wanted to stay for the half moon party or the full moon party or something, you know. In the end, my girlfriend's like, "We got to get out of here. We got to get away from Koh Phangan." So we continued on a round the world trip. It ended very well, very platonically. We split up, and I still had some money left, and I thought, I'm going back to Koh Phangan. So booked the flights within 3 days of getting back to the UK after the end of the world round the world trip, and yeah, got my initial 30-day visa. And back then, you could just take your passport to the little girl in the town, 500 baht. She'd bring it back 2 days later with a new visa in it. You know, it was wicked. So a month turned into 3 months back then. That was 2003. And then I've just been coming backwards and forwards ever since, mate. Yeah. Fell in love with the vibe of Koh Phangan, and yeah.
So you were back working in the UK. Would you do like 6 to 8 months in the UK and then come back over? How you did it?
Yeah, pretty much. There was, I mean, around the time my son was born in December 2005, I met his mum. Probably it was quite a quick relationship. What's the word for it? I can't think, but it was a very intense, quick. Everything happened. We bought a house, we had the kid, and within like the space of 18 months, and when it went pear-shaped, that was when I started coming back again. So I had a 3-year break. But actually, my son had his first birthday here. We came out with that as a whole family in 2006, Christmas time, and we had a beautiful time on the beach at Hajjao and Koh Phangan. Yeah, for a whole month around December. Yeah, and he had his first birthday, my boy here. And then, yeah, less and less frequent visits as money became, flights got more expensive, accommodation here, the baht was going down, you know. And my last visit before moving here was in 2017, when I came for a month, and I was just planning and doing a bit of a recce for, you know, what opportunities there could be if I wanted to do it for good. But then COVID hit, of course. Yeah.
And now you're full time there.
Yes, yes. So after COVID sort of made my mind up for me that I definitely wanted to be here. And I've been telling pals for years back home, you know, I'm going to live there and retire there and move there or work there one day by the time I'm 50, you know. And it was always in the back of my mind. I'd said that to these boys. And then by the time I got to 50, if I hadn't done it, then I'd be like, "What are you doing, Steve? Come on, look it up." So at the end of COVID, I saved up a bit of money, and yeah, moved out here October 2021. No, it was actually September. And then I've done 4 weeks of sandbox over in Phuket, which was nice. Not working every day, not doing any work actually for my 4 week sandbox, and getting acclimatized, and yeah, getting robbed by bar girls, the usual, you know.
Well, how do you mean getting robbed?
It was an indiscretion on a bill one night, but obviously being as long in the tooth as I am, I didn't make much about it. I just spoke to the bar manageress and said, "Look, if you really want me to come back, we have to talk about this tab." It was 3,800 baht, right? And there was 3 girls in there and me, because it was so quiet in Phuket, like at the end of lockdown. And the bar bill was like 3,800. I'm like, her name was A, I remember her name. I said, Miss A, don't think so. Not like, fuck it, you know, not like giving it loads, because I know how kids are now. So. And she went, "Okay, you come back tomorrow, you have free drink all night." I'm like, "No, let's call it 2 grand. That's me being generous. I'll come back and see you tomorrow for a beer." And I did, and I paid for my beer like 65 at the time when I went back.
Was she okay with the two
But
grand?
yeah, I paid the two, mate. I probably drunk a grand's worth of that myself, you know. Yeah. And someone, every time what I didn't realize was going on, every time the bell was rung by someone else, it's going on my tab, mate. I'm like, hold on a minute. Really? Don't try and mug me off. I've been to Thailand before, pal, you know.
You've got a business on Koh Phangan as well, don't you?
Yeah, so yeah. Panyang Steam Clean is my venture I've been running with a good pal of mine, Jimmy. He's money tree. He's an investor in it, and I'm the front man and get all the staff organised and get all the jobs lined up and do all that. But I also with it. So when you set a business up here, you can have specific purposes for that business that you're allowed to do as a Westerner. And one of them is electrical mechanical management. So that's where I fall back on my Sparkian skills, which is the job I first moved to when I came here, a project manager for Panyang Electrical. Really good company on the island. That didn't quite work out, mate, and no regrets about that. And yeah, so set that company up, and it's kind of tricky because staff loyalty, as you probably know from speaking to other guys, staffing is, you've really, really got to know how to really treat your staff well without giving them too much money. Does that make sense? You know, you've just got to agree when things aren't quite right. It's about the saving face thing, you know. And if you really want to look after your staff, you've got to bend over and take one quite a few days. But
Is it
my
hard to
cleaning,
find staff because you're on an island?
yeah,
So I imagine it's even
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
tougher.
yeah, it is. That's why when I first set up the electrical consultancy thing, looking at new builds, getting staff on board, you know, I was getting asked to price up some big work and just couldn't get the staff. So I had two guys, but this Wednesday I go work for my brother because he paid me 2 times what you pay me. I'm like, oh, fucking really? Sorry, language, but you can't just say, all right, you're done, mate. You got to go. Oh, yeah, well, I really need you Thursday, Friday. So please come in Thursday, Friday. You know, um, that's
So
unacceptable.
is that one of the toughest challenges you have?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you're running a business, yeah, the staffing and on the island, yeah, especially for like the electrical installation guys, there's a specific skill level you want them to have, you know. Otherwise, you're just babysitting and directing them all day and not being able to run around doing what you need to be doing. So I've got experience in the cleaning business back home. I worked for a carpet and upholstery cleaning company for about 4 years. Know everything there is, not everything there is to know because it's changing all the time, but I'm very well up to speed with that. And yeah, and no one else doing it on the island. And it's a very green thing we do. We don't use any chemicals, Pete. We just use our steam cleaners, hot water extraction machines, and yeah, a lot of our clients are very, very happy, mate. Yeah. Mattresses, all soft furnishings, sofas, beachwear, which there's plenty of here. You know, so
And how has the island developed? Because I was looking at a couple of videos there before this interview, and it seems that there's a lot of development going on the island, which is
um,
obviously good for you.
yeah. Well, yeah, it is and it isn't. I mean, you got to balance off. If what really annoys me on the island, Pete, yeah, fair play. The people with the money want to come and invest here and build the big villas and do all that. But don't just chop every tree down on the island because you want to build a concrete structure. Build around it. Try and do something more natural. Use bamboo, use natural wood. There's abundance of it here, you know. It's that side of it that's annoying me. It's turning into another Samui 20 years ago where it was just concrete boxes everywhere and some really beautiful landscapes that are being raped. That's the only word, mate, for it. And a lot of the time, they clear the land before planning permission or the necessary paperwork is done. There's so many bold spots of what were beautiful ancient rainforest here that have gone. You know, the good thing is there's only so much they can do here, and so far they can go with it, Pete, because the national park is sacrament here. It's sacred. You cannot chop a tree down without, you know, any permission at all. And there's a lot of it in Koh Phangan. If you look at the map and look
What
at the
kind of
national,
percentage of the island is national park?
I think you're looking at about 70%. So you could probably split a line down the middle and put in some of the northern part of the island as well. So I might be, don't quote me on that. 60 to 70%, I would say, is national park. Mostly the east side of the island, which is very mountainous. And there's one road that goes out that way to a place called Tong Nai Pan. Absolutely beautiful. The best drive you're going to have on your little scooter or your car, whatever. Hundreds of years old ancient rainforest surrounding you and up and down the hills, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. And the thing is, the Thais aren't silly, mate. They all realise now the land is at a premium. There's a lot of investors with lots of rubles, let's just say that, to spend, and they're here in abundance spending it. So, in my honest opinion, the bubble will burst because the prices can't inflate that much. That something last year was 10,000 a month is now 35,000 a month. You know, the inflation on the rentals that they're causing is ridiculous, and the bubble will burst. it's already starting to burst, I think, because you look at what the immigration police are doing over in Phuket, um, getting stuck into all these businesses that are only set up to buy land and profiteer off the land by renting places, blah blah blah. So yeah, watch this space on that one. But I'm
So
hoping
you're
Koh
seeing
Phangan.
major increases in rent and hotel prices and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Last year's high season. I mean, if you were coming as a backpacker, you're paying 1,000 baht a night in a hostel. You know, it's ridiculous. Because they can. Because the next available bungalow is 2,000 baht a night. You know, and if you marry that up with the 6 day period, 3 days before, 3 days after full moon, then it gets even more expensive. You know, so the prices do fluctuate here. Not many bargains to be had, and I'm glad I'd done it when I did. Timing was perfect for me. You know.
And do you foresee yourself staying on Koh Phangan for the long haul, or could you see yourself moving to a different island?
Maybe not a different island. I think one of the videos I watched, who's the guy with the Fred Perry who lived up in Petrobras, just off the beaten track in
Simon,
Chile? Yeah, Simon. Shout out to Simon. Respect to Simon for doing what he's done, you know.
he's a character.
And that's how, yeah, mate, that's how I see myself, like in my retirement years. Or maybe I've got a pretty good pension in 3 years coming from, I worked for Nokia back in the UK for years, 10 years. And pretty good little sum coming from that. And I'm thinking then maybe by then Koh Phangan will have been enough for me. I will have satisfied my urge to have been back here. And yeah, maybe just take off and explore and find somewhere deep in the country. And you know, the retirement visas are getting better as well. You know, they're doing the longer term ones. So I just need to run the business until it's saleable, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. We'll go sort of 6 months at a time and yeah, see how it goes, mate.
And how about your relationships? Are you single at the moment?
Yeah, very single at the moment, mate. Yeah, best way to be. Too many distractions otherwise, I've found. But it's fun. It's fun. I mean, I'm 52. I'm no spring chicken, mate. I'm not looking for the fly-by-night bar girls or whatever. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of offers on the table, but you get to an age where there's someone to settle down with, you know. And I thought I'd found them actually. I did think I'd found her, but yeah, that didn't last forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what happened with that one? Because in the email you sent me, her name was Gan, and
Oh yeah, pecan. Yeah. Oh,
the relationship
pecan.
came to an abrupt end.
Yeah, mate. It was. I'm still sort of scratching my head a little bit now, even though I'm still in contact with her, and you know, it's very plutonic at the end. But um, I met her when I was still living. When I first moved here, I moved into a friend's resort, little bamboo resort over in the other side of the island, Hing Kong. And then I met Gan. How did I meet her again? Oh yeah, massage. And she'd just moved down from Khon Kaen about 2 weeks previously, and she was actually in Samui, working in Samui. So we kept in touch after the massage, and I'm like, "Oh, come and visit me in Koh Phangan." Oh, that'd be great, yeah. So she comes over. You know, he's doing quite well. We go out for dinner, and then ensues about a 2 month relationship with her coming backwards and forwards from Samui to visit me in Koh Phangan at my mate Tony's resort. And then it was getting more serious. She was spending more time here. We're staying at my friend's resort. He's got visitors coming and going and customers and that. I said, right, let's look for our own place. So we found this place and moved in the October. And that was after knowing her 3 months. We had a happy as Larry time. We decked the house out, you know, we got it all nice. And then my dog came along. We rescued my boy Mash from the rescue centre and everything seemed really complete. And I remember her saying at the beginning of December that year, 2022, that would have been, um, oh yeah, I may have to go cousin's wedding in Khon Kaen, Christmas time. I'm like, okay, yeah, tell me. Yeah. Anyway, it gets to 23rd of December, and I'm just starting to make plans for Christmas Day and that. Where are we going? Do you want to go and eat? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, oh, yeah, I told you, I'll go to my cousin's wedding. I'm like, okay, when you go? Tomorrow, Christmas Eve, the 24th. I'm like, oh, right. And when you coming back? Oh, I'm not coming back. I'm like, you fucking serious? You're not coming back? I said, what do you mean you're not coming back? She goes, oh, I'm going to go to the wedding. And then I think I need to stay and look after my mum and my daughter and this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, so tomorrow's goodbye then. It's fucking hell, mate. So, oh my God, yeah, I was shocked, mate. And I took her with her bags and that down to the port. We had a big emotional goodbye, and yeah,
And you were together for 8 months.
yeah, about 9 months, mate. Yeah, yeah. Never a crossword. Everything was hunky dory. We were getting over the initial slight language barrier. I was learning some Thai. She was learning English. She would go out and get the food. Never asked me for money. I would never, it wasn't one of them that I'd previously not experienced. It was wicked. But yeah, it turned out she wasn't going to look after the family and blah blah blah. She was still friends with some girls she'd met here, and they were like, "Oh, Pigan, she got a good job in Phuket, work her sister's massage shop." I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense, yeah." So I messaged her, and she goes, "Oh yeah, she paid me very well, like 3,000 baht a day." I'm like, "You go for it, girl. You do what you got to do." But
3,000 baht a day is very good money for a Thai woman
oh,
in Phuket.
absolutely, mate. And that's what I said to her. I mean, she might have inflated that, exaggerated it. I don't know. It sounded too good to be true. But I'm like, yeah, happy days. You do that. Happy days.
How about the expat community in Koh Phangan? What's it like? Like tell us, and has it evolved over the years?
That's a good question, mate. It's it sort of has and it hasn't. You've still got guys I know from here, from revisiting from years ago. I mean, some of them have done really, really well. One guy, a friend of mine, Rob Gritton, he runs Island Moon Records. He organises big parties. He's involved with everything big DJ wise on the island. He's moved on. He's embraced it. And you've got other guys who are renting out two little bungalows who are still doing that, like 20 years later, who are expats. But it's a tricky one because you need to be careful if you're coming to graft Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, whatever, and you get involved with a certain amount of expats who are just on the beer all day, on the sauce, Monday to Friday, because the resorts are running themselves. They've got their staffing in place. There's a lot of that, a lot of I don't know. There's not even an age range. It's most of the expats I know who have got successful businesses will congregate at certain places, which I'll frequent to get a few stories and show my face and say hello and network. But I don't feel like I really fit into that whole expat thing. I tried playing in the pool league the first year to meet up with a few people in the pool league, and it just turns into an absolute messy, pissed up night every night. It's like, no, I can't do that shit. I've got to get up, go to work, got responsibilities, got rent to pay, blah, blah, blah. You know, it can be a bit of a minefield. Don't get me wrong, if it weren't for a few of my expat friends here, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done and get where I've gotten. So there are some diamonds in the rough, but there's a lot of rough.
I see there's a lot of gyms, and it's good that way to like for exercise, and if you want to like live the healthy option, you can do that as well there.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, the demographic in Koh Phangan over 20 years has shifted from when I was first here from 100% backpacker, It was wooden bungalows, bamboo roofs. Everyone was a backpacker. You didn't see any tourists on the island, no families, no oldies, none of that going on. Backpacker. And then you move into the 2010s, and there's like the resorts have moved away from their bungalows. They're building concrete built things, and you've got all the hippie community just evolved. I think it's always been here. It's on the hippie trail, apparently, Koh Phangan, when they follow the sun, and that's when the full moon thing all started back in the 60s. But there's a massive different demographic. You've got families wanting to settle, particularly many, many, many families from Israel and Russia, the two biggest population on the island. Um, it's a tricky one because if you really want to come here and be spiritual and this, that, and other, there's too many distractions in my eyes. There's other places you could go that are quieter, that are, you know, and I don't know. If you want to live the healthy lifestyle, you can do it anywhere, Pete, in my eyes. You can. I think the people who are selling the healthy lifestyle here, they're hoodwinking some people, that you can only do this here. It's like you can do yoga on the beach, you can do this, you can go and see a guru about your inner self and blah, blah, blah. And this, that, and the other. It's like it depends how long in the tooth you are and how open your mind is, mate.
You mentioned in the email to me the do's and don'ts of living with other expats. I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So yeah, do network, do put yourself out there, and do make yourself be known in the right way for your skill sets and what you can bring to the party, and people will tap you up for that. Don't get dragged into drinking sessions and because it's popular. Don't give in to peer pressure from expats, by the way. You'll always meet someone, oh, I've been here 20 years, mate. Yeah, but you've been doing the same thing for 20 years. So what have you actually achieved, 20 years ago? Yeah. Um, Nothing's changed. Your skin and pissing it all up the wall. So don't you tell me, oh, I've been here 20 years. Yeah, might only been here 3 years, but it's about what you got up there and what you're prepared to change and embrace and move along with. Because yeah, if you stay in one place too long here, you get swept away. Yeah. So definitely don't get involved with all these shenanigans with expats who have got their own little drinking dens everywhere. Be very, very careful of people who befriend you who are in monetary problems. I've had that a few times and been
Have
burnt.
you had people ask you for money?
Yeah, happens all the time. Yeah, all the time, mate. And if it's a good mate that is having a bad time, and yeah, I'll help them out. But you got to be clear enough in your head to make that judgment. Or is it someone who you're never going to see again? He's going to get his flight home and he's stopped. He's gone. Sorry. Um, so you just got to be wary and have your wits about you. I mean, when you're at home, you know your mates. You've got your own social circle, and if your mate Terry in the pub asks you for 10 quid for a couple of beers, yeah, of course, mate, because I see you tomorrow. You're gonna, 10 quid will come straight back. Here, it's a bit different. But I've been on the other end of that as well. I mean, I've been in tough times, and there's certain people who are very good friends who I could rely on to say, "Oh, bloody hell, mate, things aren't adding up this month. Give me a bit of a sup." Yeah, of course, Steve, no problem. There you go. You know, and it gets paid back with kindness, and it's like, yeah. But yeah, so that's another don't. You definitely don't trust anyone. Definitely don't trust anyone. You've got to set for yourself, trust yourself, make your judgments around what you believe. Don't get influenced by people trying to tell you, oh, it's best to do this, best to do that. You go this way, you can have that. Or, you've got to really come clear minded here. And yeah, so as I said, I've been sort of working in 6 month goals, 6 month little periods to get to where I am now. And it's been slower. I thought it would have happened a year earlier. It's not. You've just got to go with the flow here, Pete. But yeah, the do's and don'ts of the expat community is if you're not careful, you end up spending all your money in their bar, making them rich while you're skint. That's a big issue.
What about cost of living, Steve? And I know I'm not going to ask you like how much exactly you spend, but if you were to give us like a roundabout figure, someone who wants to go there, possibly someone who's single, wants to just go there, see, live life on tropical, beautiful tropical island, but not go too crazy, spending all their money, just live a nice life. What could they possibly pay per month?
you, I would say easily, and this, I mean, if only my pals back home see this, if you've got a disposable income between 800 and £1,000 per month, you could live here easy on that. Between 8 and 1,000. That's you can go lower than that on average. You can get a little 3,000 baht a month bamboo bungalow, live right on the beach in that. If you're coming to get established and you want your house, you're looking at probably 250 to 400 quid on your rent, £400, and then the rest is your expenditure. I mean, if you can live off 1,000 baht a day, you can easy. You can eating Thai food, cheap fuel. I've only got a motorbike. I don't run a truck or anything like that. So it's actually not a motorbike. It's a scooter, mate. So anyway, um, you could live like a king off £1,000 a month, mate. In my eyes, that's reining in, spending just your beers at the weekends. If you're like going down the expat bars every night, you're going to double that.
So, Steve, last question. Looking back on your journey so far in life, what are you most proud of?
I would have to say being father to my son and seeing him grow up for the 16 years before I came here. That keeps me going every day on the dark days, That my son's doing brilliantly. He's going to be coming out here soon when he finishes college. He's 18 now, so yeah, it's going to be nearly 3 years since I've seen him. So that is the proudest thing for me by far, without shadow of a doubt.
Well, I think you're actually the first Scotsman we've had on the channel. I'm trying to think if I had
Oh,
anyone
really?
else. Oh,
That
I think
surprises
you're the
me. That,
first one, man.
oh, really? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
On the
The Scotsman that
Scots.
sounds English. Yeah.
Well, I can hear the accent.
But
I
I've
can
done,
hear the the Scots. It comes through every now and then.
it. It happens when I speak to someone else that's got a Celtic or Gaelic tone as well, like yourself, mate. So when I got on the phone to say one of my uncles back home, my son's like, "What are you saying, Dad? What was that? What was that, mate?" Yeah. So I
Steve,
can
man, it was a
still
pleasure talking to you, and thanks for coming on and doing the interview today.
oh, thank you, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Pete. I love your the way you put everything across, and it's such an honest manner. You know, there's no pretense about anything, and it's out there. But yeah, I'll email you again after this, and we can maybe talk if you're interested about another couple of stories. I got a couple of
Yeah,
people
I
for you.
was gonna say I'd love to do a part two. I can tell your character and you can tell a story. So
Yeah,
down the line, I'd love to have you on again.
that would be fantastic, mate, and I'll gladly oblige. And hopefully, I can see in my little picture up there, the light's not so great, and that. So maybe get a more professional setup next time. And yeah.
All right, Steve.